Hi and welcome back to my channel. Today we're gonna keep watching the Napoleonic War series from Epic History TV. And this is Napoleon's Revenge. It's Wagram 1809. So same year as Aspern. Aspern was pretty interesting, right? His first major defeat, and it was against the Austrians, which is pretty cool. Let's see what Napoleon does to the Austrians here at Wagram. Original videos down below, and comment down below a new series that you want me to watch. I saw that you wanted me to watch another video from Epic History TV. It was, I don't know if it was Revolutions of 1848 or something like that. I'm probably gonna watch that. Let's get into this.
An Epic History TV History March collaboration.
Let's go.
In May 1809, the Austrians had defeated Napoleon's army in the bloody Battle of Aspern. His enemies took heart. After years of French military dominance, it seemed the tide was turning at last. 3 weeks later, Pope Pius VII excommunicated Napoleon for annexing papal land.
And I mean, excommunication is pretty, at that time it was pretty big, right? Because it meant that people who believed in the Pope you were like sort of kicked out of the sort of economic system, politics system, social system, right? You were sort of kicked out of all that. It's like today if all capitalists in the world kick you out of capitalism, right? It would be the same thing. That's a more secular way. This was more a religious way. Pretty interesting. Let's see what Napoleon does to that, to counter that.
Another propaganda coup for his enemies. But in the wake of its victory, Austria hesitated, not sure whether to seek peace or continue the war.
That's why I thought it was pretty weird when Austria declared war again against Napoleon, because they're surrounded. Of course, Great Britain said they were going to support him and attacking northern France and Holland, right? That's fair. Great Britain also gave them a lot of money. That's also fair. But again, they're surrounded. So their practical solution, I mean, okay, they won at Aspern. Sure, what are you going to do after that? You should probably chase him down and defeat him again, but don't be overconfident. Right? I mean, Napoleon won at Austerlitz. He wasn't too overconfident because he then won against the Prussians. Or if you go even further back, he won at Ulm, taking the entire army prisoners, and then he won at Austerlitz. So they're hesitating. That's not good. Napoleon's gonna strike you.
While Napoleon responded with a hurricane of activity.
Makes sense.
He summoned reinforcements to join him near Vienna. The Army of Italy, under his stepson Eugène de Beauharnais, and 11th Corps under Marshal Marmont, who'd together driven Archduke John's Austrian army out of North Italy, as well as Marshal Bernadotte's Saxon 9th
Bernadotte
Corps.
is there.
Napoleon's army grew from 90,000 to a massive 164,000
Wow.
men and 544 guns, to take on Charles's army of 128,000 and 414 guns.
I mean, look at these two armies. Both of them have small, not small armies. They have little armies, tiny, like miniature armies, right? They have core system. But still, let's say that's just one army, 164,000 and 128,000. Wow. This is epic. Austria is outnumbered, right? Napoleon can divide and conquer as he used to do. Let's see if he still does that.
6 weeks after his first attempt had ended in defeat,
Okay, so his men had to rest.
Napoleon ordered his army to cross the river once more. This time, his engineers had built solid bridges across the
Napoleon
Danube
learned.
to ensure there was no repeat of the disasters of Aspern.
I mean, look at that though. Look at that bridge. That's pretty cool. They have candles. Makes sense because you have to cross at night as well. The bridge looks sturdier. I didn't even see the bridge at Aspern how that looked, but this looks pretty stern and pretty. I mean, if the Austrians send barges against this bridge, I think it will hold up. That's pretty cool feat of engineering there.
For the French army, Napoleon declared, the Danube no longer exists.
Wow. Look at that.
The stage was set for the largest battle yet seen in European history.
It's a good job you're not any taller. Napoleon to his staff officer, whose helmet was knocked off by a cannonball. Wow. Oh my.
On the evening of the 4th of July, in heavy rain, the French...
Oh yeah, look at the animated map. You see it's 3 bridges, 2 bridges, and 2 bridges again. So, yeah, and it's sturdier bridges now, right? And then from Lobau, he has multiple bridges to cross over the Danube. Wow. And it's going more southeast than north to Aspern, right? And Essling. Okay, so, okay.
French began crossing from the island of Lobau, not towards the devastated villages of Aspern and Essling, but east towards Gross Enzersdorf, which was soon ablaze from French shells.
Wow.
Archduke Charles had left only a small advance guard to delay the French.
Which makes sense.
By dawn, General Massena's 4th Corps and Oudinot's 2nd Corps were driving those troops back, winning space for the French army to deploy.
That makes sense. Again though, the Austrians should... maybe now it's more difficult because Napoleon has cannons on Lobau, but Austrians can attack again in mass like they did at Aspern, no? Napoleon has more escape routes, which is true. Napoleon has developed the land so he has breathing room, that's true. But again, the Austrians can't do that, but it looks like they're more stationed at north there, right? Okay.
At 1 p.m, Napoleon was ready to begin his advance. Across 6 miles of flat cornfields towards the main Austrian position.
They can just shoot you with cannon.
Known as the Wagram.
Oh, that's
100
Wagram.
meters behind the Russbach stream.
Okay. Oh, Deutsch
As General
Wagram.
Lassalle's light cavalry and Massena's 4th Corps swung left to guard the flank, Oudinot's 2nd Corps and Davout's 3rd Corps advanced towards the Wagram.
I mean, look at that though. Look at this map. It is, for the Austrians, it looks very strategical, right? You have the Danube. If you look from the Austrians' perspective, you have the Danube on your right side, on your right flank, which is protected. Then you have the Wagram on your left flank. If you look from Charles, you have it on your left flank, which is pretty good. So you have a defense position there. Then you are at Wagram behind the river or stream, whatever it is. That's also pretty good defenses. It looks like it's high ground, so that's good as well. Napoleon have to go 6 miles on flat grass terrain. That's good for his cavalry, but that's also good for cannon, right? The cannon can just shoot, and the cannon will bounce on the flat plain. It looks pretty good defensive, but if Napoleon gets through in one section, he can envelop Charles and go behind his flanks. So Charles should do something and not just sit, but okay.
Bernadotte's Saxon Corps and Eugene's Army of Italy filled the centre.
Let's see what Bernadotte does, yeah?
At 6 p.m, unsure of the enemy's strength, Napoleon ordered a full-scale assault against the Wagram plateau.
Uh-oh. I have the high ground.
But his troops met determined Austrian resistance along the line. By dusk, the Saxon 9th Corps had pushed into the village of Deutsch Wagram.
Deutsch Wagram, yeah.
The Saxon infantry wore white uniforms, like the Austrians.
Oh,
and as darkness fell, were mistaken for the enemy.
Oh
fired
my.
on by friendly units.
This is nothing new though, because this happens all the time in warfare. Friendly fire, right? Which sadly is something that happens in every war, but it is something that happens, right? Of course, there's something wrong with that, but what can you do? Right? Okay, let's go.
The Saxons panicked and fled with heavy losses.
That makes sense. And the whole line
Napoleon's
retreats.
attempt at a quick breakthrough had failed.
Yep.
That night, both armies slept in the open,
Wow.
while Charles and Napoleon planned their next moves.
Imagine being just a soldier there, right? And sleeping just in the open there. And of course, you feel sort of safe because it's dark and you're hard to see, but you have still fires to, because it's probably cold, right? I mean, the Austrians can imagine being a French soldier. The Austrian can use their cannon and just shoot you in the night. But okay. The Battle of Wagram, our second day. Let's go.
On the second day, Napoleon planned for Davout's Third Corps to lead the attack,
Makes
rolling
sense.
up the Austrian flank, while his other corps pinned down the enemy with local attacks.
That makes sense. But this all have to work because Napoleon's left flank, of course, it looks pretty strong. But if you're pinning the Austrians' left flank with your right flank, the Austrians can just attack your left flank. But okay, let's see how this goes.
But to the Emperor's fury, he learned that overnight, without orders, Marshal Bernadotte had withdrawn his battered Saxons from Aderklaa, which the Austrians now occupied.
What is this? What is Bernadotte doing? Maybe he thought he was pretty exposed, but the second corps stands there. Okay. Surely he should be court-martialed. I mean, at the Battle of Jena, he wasn't there to fight with Davout, and Davout was all alone, fighting an entire army, basically, half the army or more. And he wasn't court-martialed for that, but he's... Okay.
Aderklaa was a crucial strongpoint in the centre of the battlefield.
Yeah.
Napoleon gave orders for its immediate recapture.
Okay.
But the French and Saxon attack failed, with heavy losses.
Wow. And it was
The
taken
Austrians
without a fight.
had their own problems. Archduke Charles, knowing he faced a superior enemy, decided his only chance of victory lay in an all-out dawn attack.
I don't know about that. Wouldn't it be better to do... Let's think from the Austrian perspective. Wouldn't it be great, but they would hold Napoleon down, not leave the high ground, but hold him down there, hold Napoleon's right flank, and just attack his left flank. Wouldn't that make sense? Instead of attacking everything at once, why would you go away from the Wagram? Maybe he hasn't learned that much then. Okay.
He was relying on his brother, Archduke John, reaching him with 13,000 reinforcements, in time to support the attack on the left.
The last time an army waited for support from 20,000, 13,000 men was the Prussians, right? When Napoleon fought what he thought was the main Prussian army, right? At Jena. And when the Prussian reinforcement came, they fought and then they fled. Nice.
But by dawn, there was still no sign of him.
Yeah. Bad communications.
What's more, as 4th Corps began its assault on Grosshofen on time, 3rd Corps, which had received its orders late, was still getting into position, holding up the entire Austrian right wing. Charles had to tell 4th Corps to abort its unsupported attack until the other corps were ready.
This looks like Austerlitz all over again, right? Bad coordinations, bad information, not sure what to do, have a plan, but not sure how to execute it perfectly, right? Okay.
With the Austrians paralysed by delays, at 10 a.m, Davout began his attack. A fierce infantry battle erupted in the village of Markgraf Neusiedl. While in the fields, dragoons and hussars fought a giant whirling cavalry battle, as each side tried to outflank the other.
Amazing.
Davout's corps took the village.
Yeah.
But they couldn't stop the Austrians withdrawing to a strong new position on the Wagram escarpment.
They should have just stayed there. I understand the Austria meeting the army because then you're choosing the ground to fight on. But you're going away from a ground that you chose to defend. Okay.
Meanwhile, a serious threat had developed to Napoleon's left flank and rear.
That's what I'm saying.
Klenau's 6th Corps had driven back the outnumbered French, with some units advancing as far as Essling, dangerously close to Napoleon's vital river crossings.
But that's why I think Napoleon put the bridges on Lobai Island on the east side and not the north side, because he thought probably correct so as well, that if his left flank was enveloped and almost encircled, then he wouldn't have an escape route. That's why he probably put it at the eastern side, and probably so barges from the northwest couldn't come down and destroy his bridges from Lobau. But okay.
Napoleon urgently needed to reinforce his left flank, but he was also determined to hold back his reserves for a decisive attack.
That makes sense.
He ordered Massena's 4th Corps to march across the battlefield and reinforce the left.
That's brave.
A huge redeployment like this, right in front of the enemy, was high risk.
Yeah.
So Marshal Bessières was ordered to lead a cavalry attack straight against the enemy centre.
Wow.
Casualties were high. Even Marshal Bessières had his horse killed under him, to the alarm of his men. But the enemy was kept busy, while 4th Corps completed its redeployment and forced Klenau's corps to fall back.
Any trooper who isn't dead by 30 is a coward, and I don't anticipate exceeding that length of time. General Anton Lassalle. 33. Wow.
Napoleon now assembled a grand battery of more than 80 cannon in
Typical
the centre
Napoleon.
of the battlefield. This was one of Napoleon's trademark tactics, a concentration of artillery to blast the enemy line and pave the way for a decisive French attack.
Makes sense.
The Grand Battery fired an estimated 15,000 rounds, setting light to the cornfields.
Yeah.
Around 1 p.m, Napoleon ordered a general attack. As Davout continued to batter at the enemy flank, 4th Corps would advance on the left, 2nd Corps on the right, while in the centre, General MacDonald would lead forward 8,000 men of the Army of Italy, formed up in a giant 3-sided square to secure his flanks.
Imagine seeing that.
But despite the terrible French cannonade, Austrian 3rd Corps and Grenadiers of the Reserve met the French advance with torrential fire.
That's epic.
MacDonald's giant square was cut to pieces. Its men mowed down en masse by cannon fire.
Sad.
The attack stalled.
Yeah.
But the Austrian army, battered by relentless French attacks, was near breaking point.
Yeah, makes sense.
Every part of the line was under pressure from the French.
Yep.
Archduke Charles, determined above all to keep his army intact, ordered...
Why would he want to keep his army intact? To fight another day? But I also thought he would have stayed longer. I mean, he was under attack from everywhere. But again, he wanted to wait for John to come with reinforcements to save his left flank. But I don't know when they are gonna come, but let's see if they come.
A retreat. The Austrian withdrawal was disciplined and well executed.
So they learn.
Napoleon had his victory.
Pretty cool
but his
victory.
Army was also so shattered by fatigue and heavy losses, it was unable to launch any effective pursuit.
This is like a contrast to what the Austrians did. The Austrians were also exhausted after they won against Napoleon at Aspern, that they didn't pursue him and let him leave Low-by Island and then go down to Vienna, right? And rest. Napoleon is doing the same thing because he's also exhausted. So he has not met his match, but has met a match. That's good. It's obvious that you were not at Wagram. Napoleon to a minister who mocked the Austrians. Yeah. Good for Napoleon standing up there.
The Battle of Wagram was a brutal slugging match. The biggest and bloodiest battle yet seen in European history.
Yeah.
French victory came at unprecedented cost. An estimated...
Oh my... What? Oh my... I mean, it makes sense that the Austrians had more prisoners, or missing. Makes sense. The French lost more standards, though, probably from that charge that, or not charge, but that march forward that MacDonald did, probably. Napoleon lost one more gun. Okay. This is devastating. Wow.
37,500 casualties.
Oh my.
Against 41,500 Austrian.
Sure.
4 days later, French troops caught up with the retreating Austrians at Znaim. As the fighting escalated, Charles knew he could not withstand the French a second time.
Makes sense.
And asked for a ceasefire.
Okay. He knew when he was beat, though. That's pretty interesting. So he has learned, but he knew when he was beat. Okay.
But he had not consulted his older brother, Emperor Francis, who
the
was furious
dictator.
when he heard the news. Not least because long-awaited British support was finally on the way.
There you go.
3 weeks after the Battle of Znaim, the largest amphibious force Britain had ever assembled, 35 ships of the line and 39,000 troops, landed at Walcheren Island on the Scheldt estuary. Its aim was to destroy French shipping and naval stores.
Okay.
But following the successful bombardment and capture of Vlissingen, British commanders let the initiative slip from their grasp.
Okay.
Their force was bottled up by French troops on the marshy Dutch coast, where it was decimated by fever and dysentery.
Wow.
About 4,000 died.
Oh my.
Many more became permanent invalids.
Wow.
The survivors were evacuated back to England in December.
Oh my.
Emperor Francis, informed of the British debacle and persuaded by his generals that Austria couldn't fight on, made peace with Napoleon.
Another loss.
In October, Austria signed the Treaty of Schönbrunn, giving up territory to the French Empire, Bavaria, Saxony, the Duchy of Warsaw, and Russia. In total, the Austrian Empire was stripped of 3.5 million subjects, forced to pay an indemnity, limit its army to 150,000 men, and join Napoleon's continental system. Which meant ending all trade with British ships and merchants.
I mean, they don't have much of a coastline anymore, but okay.
Archduke Charles, meanwhile, one of Napoleon's more skilled opponents, had fallen out so bitterly with his brother, Emperor Francis, that he never held active command again.
That's sad.
Napoleon had won another crushing victory. But there were worrying signs for the French Emperor. His enemies were learning, while he would increasingly have to rely on young conscripts to fill the gaps left by veterans killed or wounded on campaign. Few could have guessed in 1809, but Napoleon had just fought his last victorious campaign.
Wow. That's strong words. Wow. That's pretty awesome. But I mean, Napoleon had his formidable enemy, right? The Archduke. But his brother, the king or emperor, sacked him. That's, wow, that's, I mean, that's that last statement there. That's pretty epic. Wow. Alright, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.